Our political reporter Hugh Casswell is at tonight's meeting in Nottingham. Hugh, what's expected to happen there?
Well, only one or two Labour members and delegates seem to have arrived so far this evening, but they're all due to meet at this Quakers church in Nottingham starting in a little under an hour's time. And yes, they will be discussing the displeasure that Chris Leslie seems to have incurred in some of his local party members.
Shropshire is blue. A bit like county councils in the East Midlands, here the Conservatives are the big cheese.
Where Shropshire's different, though, is in the amount of layers. Because in, say, Nottinghamshire, unless you live in the city itself, you've got the county council, then you've got a district or borough, and then you might even have a town or parish council as well.
Yes, I was going to say, Hugh, if this is to go ahead, how long are we in the process?
Well, not very is the short answer, but of course, such a big shake-up for local government, it's not quite as straightforward as rebranding your letter headings and your bin lorries. Even with the preferred option now published, though, it actually happening is far from nailed on. It still has to survive a key vote next week, and with no Conservative majority in this room, and with a Conservative leader who's really staked her reputation on this plan, if she were to lose that vote, suddenly her position becomes quite uncertain. Sound familiar? Hugh Casswell, BBC East Midlands Today, Nottinghamshire. Before now, any disabled person in Nottinghamshire could keep £189 of their benefit before having to pay anything towards their care. A little tinkering to that formula, though, bringing the county in line with government guidelines, means that 862 people have to start paying, and almost 1,500 others have to pay more than they were already. I'm told that many of those who've come in to replace some of those as Labour candidates are very much from the left wing of the party, members of Momentum, pro-Jeremy Corbyn. Of the like, there's really not been many of on Nottingham City Council until now, so that could come into play when they come to choose their new leader. And yes, while when you wake up tomorrow, it would be a big surprise for Nottingham's political colours to be anything other than red, it might just be a slightly different shade of red. Nottinghamshire has lost more police officers over the past decade than anywhere else in the country. How can people here expect to feel safe when you keep cutting police budgets like that?
Well, nobody could have predicted the tragic turn of events that have taken place during the election campaign.
2 weeks ago, Robin Hood Energy announced that many of their customers will see a 17% increase to their bills. Does that have to go down as part of a failed policy?
No, I don't know the reasons for the price increase by Robin Hood Energy.
The latter of which said to me that you are dishonest Dave. He even said that he is the Robin Hood to your Sheriff of Nottingham. It's all getting a little bit snipey, isn't it?
Well, look, the point is we're having a referendum, and it's not about Nigel Farage or what he thinks about Boris or what I think about Nigel or whatever.
Surely, though, you run a risk of losing some of that youth vote if you're not able to provide some clarity on what's going to happen with student debt. No one knows what's going to happen with student debt under a Labour government.
Let me clear that up for you then, shall I? We promised in our manifesto that we'd scrap tuition fees. That was a policy. It's in our manifesto, and that's what we'll do.
The Bank of England, the IMF, the Institute of Fiscal Studies all have said, or at the very least suggested, that if we were to leave, we could end up in a recession. It's going to hit Nottinghamshire people in the pocket, isn't it?
No, I don't think so at all. I think we'll be richer. I think it's very sad.
Both sides of the argument have been accused of scaremongering, though. Are you scaremongering with comments like those?
Scaremongering? Scaremongering? I'm saying take back control of our country.
In the end, more than 23,000 people backed Ben Bradley, 10,000 more than the last time a Tory took on the seat. Blue rosettes and celebratory champagne, a sight not seen together in Mansfield before.
Congratulations, Ben.
20 years ago, 12 years ago, 2 years ago, this would have seemed impossible. This year it was just improbable. But even so, the phrase Conservative MP for Mansfield doesn't quite seem right tripping off the tongue. And make no mistake, this isn't one of the biggest shocks in Nottinghamshire. It's one of the biggest shocks in the country.